So no agreement with the EU, but
welcome to S0Ciety Watch. This is a program where we ventilate societal issues, give them aggregate attention with a view to propose solutions that will benefit humanity. And today on Society Watch, we'll be talking about floods. Residents raise alarm over floating corpses in Bayelsa and Delta cemeteries. And from the Niger Delta, Amnesty Administrator advocates for full-time employment of trained ex-militants. Talking about international relations, 16 Nigerian students in Indian university flee over clash with locals. And on immigration, Nigerians going for many jobs abroad are misguided, says Professor Ahmud. And Child Rights Act, pass Child Rights Act into national law, Children's Parliament beg federal government. These are the issues we will be looking at today on Society Watch. Our guest for today is the Chairman, National Youth Council of Nigeria. I will introduce him to you when we return from this break.
You human
On the
trafficker,
point of
human
order.
trafficker.
Honorable
You
State
are a
Leader.
human
On the
trafficker.
point of
On there. They are not picking our calls.
Is
They
on
made
the
up their
path
mind.
to what's been called a plan. So no agreement with the EU, but
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. And first on our issues for today is bordering on the flood. Residents raise alarm over floating corpses in Bayelsa Delta cemeteries. As floods continue to ravage most parts of the country, residents of Airplane Road in Yanagua, Bayelsa States and Bomadi local government area of Delta States have raised the alarm over floating corpses from submerged cemeteries in their areas. This came as several communities in Bomadi, Pantami, and Burutu local government areas of Delta States were yesterday sacked by the ravaging flood, with indigents sleeping on top of Bomadi Bridge. The State Commissioner for Environment and Chairman of Bayelsa Flood Committee, Mr. Iselema Barambiri, said the floating of corpses were actually reported. First, as Commissioner for the Environment, I got the report of a floating corpse and directed my head of health and sanitation to get the corpse reburied. Later, 2 more corpses were recovered and reburied, and the environment was properly fumigated. The chairman, Bomadi Federated Community and Delta States, Mr. Seleyebo Perekeme, said the entire Bomadi local government area is submerged, with only the council secretariat still standing because of community efforts. So we've been calling on our political leaders to help, since Bomadi is the last community standing and victims are fleeing in from neighboring communities such as Bakaima, Oboro, Esama, Tuomo, Tubegbe, Koloware, Ogboyama, and many others in both Burutu and Patani council areas. Many victims are fleeing from Yanagua to Bomadi. Meanwhile, there are reports that security operatives allegedly acting on directives of some chairmen denied governorship candidates of 2 parties access to IDP camps to sympathize with victims of floods in Ahoda East and Ahoda West in River States to present relief materials. Now, I am very, very troubled about this issue of floating corpses in Bayelsa and Delta States, particularly because this is what would have been avoided. I mean, to a very great extent, this would have been avoided. It just shows the lack of preparedness from the national, the federal, from the state to the local levels. I mean, no one was adequately prepared for this. This is what it just goes to show us. And at the end of the day, I am wondering, let's not finish this issue of flooding and we realize that we've left people with more health issues than should have been. This is very, very worrisome. Well, I'm not alone on the program today. We have the Chairman, Youth Council of Nigeria, here with us, Comrade Mr. Barry. Thank you for joining us. You're welcome. Now, let's look at this issue of floating corpses. I feel it's a total issue of lack of preparedness from the federal, local, even the state governments, because you cannot tell us that there were 4 warnings on this. I mean, right from September when the NEMA and all the other agencies came out with a whole lot of information trying to tell us, oh, this is going to happen. The Lagdo Dam has already been opened and we are should be expecting this. And we do not have any strategy put in place. What we are doing right now is to remove corpses from the waters and rebury them. How is that going to impact on us? I mean, this is, I don't even know how to imagine this. What do you think?
Well, the truth is that Nigeria is in a sorry state. Nigeria has actually shown all the characteristics of a failed state. And when they say that, when you say a state is failed, it means that leadership is lacking at all levels. It will be very painful to hear that at this point in time, something that societies, organizations, and what have your opinion leaders have been crying out for a while till this thing came to be. Nigeria is a reactive state. We react to situations. We don't even look at our issues or issues that will before the state in the nearest few days or few months or few years. When was the last time you hear Project 2030, Project 2040? These are how sustainable development goals are achieved and obtained in every society. Because if you have a plan for sustainable development goals for the next 20 or 30 years, you know the peculiarities of your environment, your society, and what will likely be for you. The issue of the flood that is affecting Nigeria today is man-made. It is man-made because it is not a natural disaster. It is something that man actually, organized, put together, and poor management. If a disaster is occurring from what you ordinarily would have fixed as a result of equipment failure or whatever, and you are coming at this point in time, meanwhile, we are going to be faced with a lot of hazardous and more health issues that might even be worse than the COVID-19 or the coronavirus you popularly know, or the ones we had before, monkeypox and the rest of them. The things that are going to befall Nigeria is beyond just the effect of the flood in the meantime. After this flood, we are going to be battling with a lot of health issues. And at this point in time, it is not just about curbing the situation. Have they been able to deploy any tangible thing for researches, to understudy what is going on and begin to proffer solutions to it? Or after dealing with this flood and we have lost a lot of lives and properties, is that when we are going to be faced with another pandemic of health? Is the government really prepared for the effect of this flood in the nearest months, in the nearest days, or we are just focused about the 2023 election as that is the only life wire of the nation? So it's a pathetic situation.
You just talked about the 2023 elections and the particular case in Ahoda West and its neighboring local government. It's just becoming so much of a concern to me because people are suffering this flood. In fact, if you even see the state of the IDPs where these people are settled, you begin to wonder how safe they are there. And then while we are trying to deal with that, there are reports that some aspirants, some governorship candidates and some parties are being stopped from visiting those people to give them relief materials. I mean, what are we actually doing?
I think it's a very shameful one for the leadership of the Rivers State government through the local government authorities to be discriminating people coming to donate relief materials. But you cannot give what you don't have. This is a total leadership failure. And these are most of the reasons why most of the times we are always on the lookout for. Because when you speak out to a government that has lost sense of responsibility to the people, the government has not come to even discuss these issues. Look for opinion of people on how these issues will be resolved. He has not even called for, let's say, a public meeting or a stakeholders meeting on how the issues of flood will be taken care of. Has he even, the governor as of today has not even visited the sites, but he's traveling every here and there talking about politics and all that. So it goes to show you how the government of Rivers State lack the willpower to ensure that the people benefit directly from democracy. Releasing 1 billion, that's good, but it's not enough. There are needed interventions that his presence can, put in place immediately for these people to reduce the challenges and to reduce it's so alarming. The situation there is something that his presence alone can solve a lot of problems. Because if he pays a visit to that place today, I'm telling you too, if he sees the situation that people are going through, there are people that voted for him, people that he is controlling their common resource. Dashing them 1 billion naira, it should not even be a thing to celebrate because it's our commonwealth. But even at that, we thank him for what he has done. If he pays visit to that place, he can be able to set up 2 or 3 more IDP camps and, give more items to the people, attract other people to that place. In as much as the news has been coming and we have been affected over the years by flood and the government has not done much or little to ensure that these things are averted. There are some of our rivers that we have been drained. It is not just draining some canals within Port Harcourt. They are very deep rivers within River State. This is called River State and we are surrounded by rivers. So there are some of these rivers that if you actually drain, or you kind of dredge these things, it will help the river bank to expand and accommodate more waters. But when these things are not done, what do you expect?
It's quite appalling.
Again, I want to say that Rivers should condemn it in totality. Why some persons will be allowed, why some persons will not be allowed. The health and the need of Rivers people does not know politics. This thing is not happening to APC members alone. This issue is not happening to PDP members alone. It is happening to Rivers people. We are Rivers people before politics. And it's very painful that the current administration over time has proven that he is only interested in playing politics with the lives of Rivers people. Looking at the statement, the document he released, you call it the 22 or the 21.
Executive Order 21.
Executive Order 21. Telling people that they must pay for a few before they use and all that. But we are not diving into that. Everything about leadership is not about politics. Politics should be separated from leadership. From the inception of this government, it has been politics, and politics. And playing politics with human lives there.
With this issue of flood and the fact that people are calling for help, this narrative would definitely change because it's not going to lead us anywhere. Well, let's move away from that and look at the Niger Delta. The Amnesty Administrator advocates for full-time employment of trained ex-militants. The interim administrator of the Presidential Amnesty Program, PAP, Major General Barry Tariye Ndiomu, retired, has urged vendors handling vocational skills training programs to properly negotiate job placement conditions with relevant institutions to secure guaranteed employment, which would offer minimum living income and benefits for the delegates at the end of such trainings. Major General Ndiomu stated this when he visited one of the vendors, Sunop Logistics Limited in Port Harcourt, where 200 delegates from the Presidential Amnesty Program are currently undergoing vocational skills training in maritime and related areas to acquire competences in swam buggy, cranes, and forklifting operations, plumbing, carpentry, tugboats, barges operations. Now, the interim administrator said he was concerned that only 50% of the delegates will be employed for a short period of 30 months, after which they might be thrown back to the labor market to start hunting for fresh jobs, saying that such arrangements would not provide guaranteed employment for the delegates. Now, you call this the Amnesty Program to help bring people out of violence and make them live better, more responsible for their societies. And then you train them, but at the end of the day, they cannot have a guarantee as to job placement.
Well, the problem of Nigeria is not that the necessary laws have not been put in place, but the lack of leadership, lack of political will to implementing these beautiful laws. The setup of the Amnesty Board, to mitigate and reduce issue of criminality in the Niger Delta, Sub-Sahara region, was a beautiful one. But I'll tell you for free today that the real essence of that project has been defeated. You already know that we are having a lot of crises in our society as we speak today, and that if some group of young people have been, have decided through advocacy to drop their guns and, be meaningful, it is the responsibility of this commission or this agency, to devise out means with which these people can be absorbed into the society appropriately. The persons that have gone to school without carrying arms are still lying fallow on the streets with their certificates. And you're here still stressing on the fact that people, that have embraced the amnesty, which they are on payroll monthly by the federal government, and that they are also on training by the federal government. At least the program should be holistic enough to ensure that after your training, there should be a startup pack. Government cannot provide jobs for everybody. But if you have the right trainings and the right support and the right environment, individuals can even build companies that will absorb others. Now, to balance it on the other way around, we have always been talking about a very small sect of the agitated youth who have carried arms for a while, to push home their demand and all that. What happens to other youths that have decided to be law-abiding, that have gone to school and satisfied all conditions of training, and they have their certificates? If this thing continues, this thing portends a danger to the Nigerian state, because you'll be forced to see that in no distant time, if I see that I'm being meaningful, I'm being law-abiding, I am trying to do things within the ambit of the law to ensure that I get a job, to assist myself and dependent relatives, and it's not done, what you're going to see is that we are going to see youths of Nigeria, especially the Niger Delta, carry their certificate in their left hand and carry gun in their right hand. Because if the certificates are no longer working, it means that the gun can also work as a tool for demand and negotiation with the government. The government is not setting the right pedestal and right machinery, to guide the Nigerian youth, the Niger Delta youth, into a right-thinking atmosphere.
Are you trying to say that as much as they prepare this package for amnesty, there should be something else for other youths?
Of course. Of course. Like, you can barely see any opportunities of employment. And in most cases, when you even hear of employment, how does it go? Man, no man. Do you have a godfather? The clear case is a case of employment in Rivers State, where the governor sat down and wrote over 450 names of Romo Precon people on the list. In such a system, what are you trying to entrench? What yardstick? What came? So the system is already a failed system. So the youths are angry. The NSAS is just an indicator of how vexed the youths are. And if things are not gotten rightly, I'm telling you, 2023 has a lot of danger ahead of us.
Well, well, let's just go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue. Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. And before we went on that break, we're talking about the amnesty programs and the trainings that these youths that have embraced amnesty are going on, and the fact that some of them are just liable to get a job for 30 months, and after that, we don't know what. Well, let's move away from that issue and look at international relations. 60 Nigerian students and Indian university flee over clash with locals. About 60 Nigerian students pursuing academics in an Indian private university, GD Goenka University, have fled their campus after they were allegedly beaten and abused on the football field and in their hostel. The Nigerian students said they feared for their lives and were staying in various places of Delhi temporarily as they sought the intervention of the Nigerian Embassy intervention. Reports revealed that they opted for the temporary decision to leave following a protest by a group of Indian students against Nigerians for offering prayers on the football ground nearly a month ago. The protesting students who shouted Jai Shri Ram slogans had lodged their complaints with the registrar, asking the authorities to ensure the Nigerians offered rituals or prayers known as namaz in India only in their hostel rooms. The matter was resolved amicably, police and the university had said then. However, on Sunday, both the police and the university management said the football field had nothing to do with the protest over namaz a month ago. Now, if you look at this, I was looking at the video and I could see the violence and all that. But let's go back to the root of this. Like about a month ago, on a football pitch, Nigerians, Muslims were saying their prayers on that pitch.
Okay.
And from what it seems, it was against their own belief, it was against their own prayer pattern. I mean, they said that these guys should have made their prayers in their hostel rooms and not on the pitch. But looking at the violence that have ensued as a result of this, what do you think?
I think if you want to talk about the root cause of this issue, it is far from what has happened in India.
Okay.
This is a direct replication of what we are discussing here. Who is India to even raise their hand without, employing the law? As if you say that they are not supposed to pray, it means that there are set rules that governs that space. And for the people to take laws into their hand to begin to maim and hit up Nigerians like that, it should tell you that the world has come to realize that Nigeria has failed. And Nigerians can be treated anywhere around the world. If we had a better educational system in Nigeria, what would Nigerians be looking for in India going to school? I am not saying we cannot go and import education. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is, if Nigeria have really truly harnessed her capability and wealth and resource to ensure that the educational system in Nigeria is working, nobody would want to leave his own fatherland filled with opportunities to a land where you be treated like animals. You dare not even treat animals like that. But because of the lack of integrity of Nigeria as a state, the failure of Nigeria as a state, Nigeria has expressed continually the characteristics of a failed state. And so when it's just like a parable in the Bible that says, the princes are now riding, so the princes are now walking barefooted, and the servants are now riding on horses. That is exactly the scenario here. India to Nigeria. How would have even, that shouldn't have been a thing of.
In fact, what is also of concern to me is the fact that the government, both the Nigerian embassy over there and the government here, has not said anything about this. That
is exactly what we are saying. A failed system of governance has no boundary. That Nigeria has failed, it has failed in every sector. Don't be surprised that you that in Nigeria might even have more information than the Nigerian embassy there. Don't be surprised that the detailed information you have about this issue is even far above and beyond what the Nigerian embassy will even portray to the people. So, Nigerian failed leadership. And how do we even get these ambassadors, political appointees? Not necessarily that they fit into the office. oh, I know him, let him just go there and relax. And the person, when you send them there, he just goes to play political activities and all that. You know, he sees that as an opportunity to just travel and make things for his family and ease his own, life and all that. So they're not really going there to serve Nigerians. Nigeria, as of today, is on a threshold. It's heading towards the iceberg. And I don't know if this flood that came is even pushing us to the iceberg. But if we continue like this, there will be no country called Nigeria. And everybody, just like so many sectionist group are coming up, will be left with no option than to go their separate ways. But we don't pray for this.
The truth is, we want our Nigeria back.
Okay.
So what can we do?
The way forward on this issue is that if you employ somebody and the person is not doing well, it is your responsibility not to complain, but to sack the person. So come 2023, what we need to do as employers of labor, the electorate are the employers of labor, is to come out massively, get your PVCs, arm yourself with necessary informations. Let them come and present their scorecard. For those of them that have been there 4 years or more, that have not performed to our expectation, you sack them with your votes. This is not a time of, it's from my tribe, it's from my place, oh, we are related. No. Evil knows no boundary. The rain that falls in your community does not fall on your roof alone. So it's a common disease that we need to deal with. And the only way to deal with it is to, speak in one voice and unity come 2023. And that is why the youth should be more prepared this time around than ever before.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, let's move away from that and immigration. Nigerians going for menial jobs abroad are misguided. That's coming from Professor Amund. The Vice Chancellor of S0Ciety University, Professor Olukayode Amund, has said that Nigerians who abandon lucrative jobs in the country only to be engaged in menial jobs abroad were misguided. Amund said there was nothing that attracted him to remain abroad to work after completing his studies. He said that there was nothing to run away from in the country if all hands were on deck to make things work. Now, okay, there was not too long ago a story of a lady who was a banker here in Nigeria, and then she traveled out of the country and ended up to be doing housekeeping jobs. I mean, she was literally seen with a mob trying to clean the rooms and all that. But the truth remains that most Nigerians have left the shores of this country and are outside there doing menial jobs. In as much as they're menial jobs, they still claim that they get well paid and they enjoy a whole lot of privileges that they never enjoyed in the country. So you realize most Nigerians are leaving the country. But let's look at his argument. He is saying that they are misguided because if all hands are on deck in the country, we can make Nigeria better.
I think there are two sides to this coin. Firstly, I would agree with him on the grounds of being very patriotic as a Nigerian, because for me, I have had few opportunities to travel outside this country and for studies and some other stuffs. But the only thing that have also kept us around is the question of, if we don't do this, who will? Nobody is going to make our lands better for us. The land where you are going to, people have paid the price. People have made these deliberate sacrifices. So if you look at it from that angle, you can tend to agree with the professor that he actually making a credible point. But on the other way around, I disagree with him, because before you can stand on your feet to fight, you should be comfortable. And when I say comfortable, I'm not saying you should have the whole world at your hands. But what we are saying is that at least the minimal essence of living. There are people that cannot eat today in Nigeria 1 square meal. If you look at the poverty index, we are living below $1. And if you're living below $1 in Nigeria as we speak today, and the price of things are even to the sky, so at what point can you even say you can, give back to the society? At what point can you say patriotism should be on the peak? When every other person, every other structure and organogram of government that was supposed to, drive home patriotism has become the very focal, very muster point where they even abuse you if you try to be reasonable in your workspace, like doing this job and you try to focus on the issues and bring them out to the public. Government will begin to tackle you, and all that. So on the long run, if the right things were done by leadership of this country, from federal, state, and local government, we wouldn't have been having this surge. There is a very, very disturbing statistics of people traveling from this country, exporting services from this country. We have about 200 medical practitioners leaving this country every month. And in the total of 1 year, we've had about 10,000 of them leaving.
That's the cause for concern. If we're having this level of brain drain, what is going to happen to Nigeria?
That is to tell you that Nigeria, in no distant time, is going to lack manpower to even drive her institutions because of the poor working condition. Okay, that you are a lecturer in school does not even guarantee you that you have a livelihood already programmed for your family and your children. Federal government is owing ASU's staffs, ASU people, the organization, the lecturers, over 8 months. They have their children at home. So if you have an opportunity to send out one of your child to do menial job over there that you are paid over 10 times of what you earn here, which one will you prefer? So the bottom line of this whole thing is not to, throw blame games on the people that wants to survive. Survivor first. Everybody has the right to survivor before you talk about anything. It's an emergency situation in Nigeria, and people are going out to survive first before they can. That is why you also have a large number of the people living in overseas interested in the decision of, you can influence what happens in your country from anywhere you are. And that is why they are also agitating that the Electoral Act in subsequent times should be able to accommodate the people in the overseas to make a decision in the elections of Nigeria. Let me also let you know that it is even the foreign support that we get from people overseas in Nigeria that is even sustaining this country. What is our domestic... everything has just gone bad. Everything has gone bad. And for you to say somebody that wants to go and survive first, to come back home to give back, is misguided. Something is even wrong with that statement in the first place. So
well, he is saying they are misguided on the basis of the fact that you're leaving a lucrative job in Nigeria to go do menial jobs.
Whose job is lucrative in Nigeria? When the least menial job in overseas is 10 times a lucrative job in Nigeria. So what is the definition of being lucrative? Is it not the pay? And if they are there, they can assist some few persons, dependents, relatives, and all that. So the definition of being lucrative here, I don't think subsists. If you can earn 10 times of what you have here in Nigeria. I know there are some other conditions you would have been looking at, earning so much and paying more tax. But it is a system that is working. You trust the system. We are not even looking at how much you earn here.
That's the point. That's the catch to it now. We are paying these taxes, or rather, Nigerians out there are paying these taxes to make the system work.
See, in the overseas, when you earn your money, the government takes their own part of the tax comfortably. And it's an obligation. It's a two-way thing. The government is doing their own side of the bidding and the coin. You are doing your own side. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. We are seen as slaves. We work so hard and they impose more taxes. This current administration has increased VAT to over 7 points. And if you go out within the premise of Rivers State today, there's what we call consumption tax. People are paying tax unknowingly. And what are the money used for? And then somebody will get into power and will tell you, it is my turn. I am doing it for my people. When it is your own turn, do what you like. That is the kind of leadership we have. If a governor controlling the common resources of the people that have sworn an oath not to be biased, not to use public fund for personal activities, will come to the public space to tell you, I am the governor of Rivers State, that it is my turn. I am doing it for my people. when it is your turn, do it for your people, you will see that there is no hope. There is no institutional security. A common man does not feel safe doing business in this part of the world. A common man does not even feel, no job security in Nigeria. And when you don't have job security, you that is working in a bank, one day you can just hear that the bank has, packed up. The bank has folded. Or someone has, bought over the bank and staffs are, after the COVID-19, you know what happened to so many persons. They were displaced because of so many. So, and even the government policies does not even encourage job securities in this country. So people must survive before they are patriotic. And that is what most Nigerians are doing. They have also encouraged more Nigerians to go into other crimes that we shouldn't have gone, because you must survive. There is an emergency situation in the job creation in Nigeria, from the policies to what have you. And the government is not, this issue of flood that we are talking about, by the time we are done with flood, you will know how many persons have lost their job, gone back to the labor market. What happens to all the companies in the areas that, and this is something that can be averted. And this is just a little thing that government should do. These things will not come to play. And now that people will be put off, so there is no job security in Nigeria.
Now, again, I'm just thinking, there's been a whole lot of cry as to brain drain, the mass exodus of Nigerians leaving the country, going outside there. But again, I also look at the fact that we have our leaders, political office holders, who also go out of the country. I mean, they go for different reasons, medicals and all that, even their children's education. But none of them is complaining about this. We are only concerned about the youths that are leaving the country.
The truth is that Nigeria, as a country, is in a big mess, where it is controlled by few elites. So whatever they do is good, and whatever the people does in reaction to their own actions is bad. Ordinarily, there is no governor in Nigeria that performs or gets medical treatment in Nigeria. Why? They know themselves that they have even failed the system and the country and the people. So if you travel to overseas to get education for your child, you travel overseas to get medical attention. Ikwerimadu is in London having some crisis right now because of medical tourism. Nobody is going to say anything. This is just the first time we are having such issues. And look at the attention they are giving to it. If it's an ordinary individual in Nigeria, nobody will know about it. Nobody won't discuss it. It won't even be discussed anywhere, or even the international relations and all that. It will not be discussed. It will be swept under the carpet. That is the kind of country we find ourselves. We are saying that as a people, whatever we do, don't say anything. Don't react. Just take it. And we are dying. When you have pushed a man to the wall so much, he will be forced to bounce back. He will be forced to react. Even the law gives you the right to defend yourself. So at this point in time, Nigerians are on a crossroad, and they cannot bear it anymore. And that is why you see the massive move, massive interest. Questions, what is wrong? Okay, if leadership is wrong, in 2023, we are determined to fix a square peg in a square hole. We cannot continue to litter ourselves as beggars, and during the electronic process, okay, look at it. Because of politics, even the people that are in IDP camps are being deprived because they just want you to suffer. When you're suffering, because they're in control of the political power, they are in control of financial power, which has to determine a lot in the system. When these things are going on, it's their happiness because they can get away with whatever they want. If you're hungry, can you fight?
Of course not.
You can also, the matter is endless. In summary, the problem of Nigeria is failed leadership institution, both from the family to government. Because these persons we are talking about, they are from families. Growing up, I used to know that if you are doing well in the society, they recognize you and honor you so that people will look after you. Today, who do we honor? Even down to churches. What are the kind of persons, what are the kind of leaders we honor in our communities. You see somebody that goes into internet fraud, before you know, buys one or two and before you know, is a chief. There was a particular monarch in the north, that crown that gave a chieftaincy title to a renowned bandit.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things. The no integrity, the system is collapsing every now and then. Leadership
really
crisis
to find a solution to this.
The only solution is 2023. Come out and speak in one voice. We all know the candidate that will deliver this country from where it is. We might not have the very best overnight, but it's a process. Nigeria was once the giant, even if we are still the giant in number. As we are still giant as the most populous black nation on the surface, we have some attributes that still keeps us as giants. But in the real essence of living up to expectations and exploring the opportunities, the resource, the manpower that is within to product maximal capacity to entrench sustainable development goals and compete favorably across the globe, Nigeria has failed.
We are getting it back this time around.
I just believe so.
We are getting it back this time around.
2023.
Yeah, we trust we are getting it back this time around. Okay, this is the much we'll take on today's program. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you, our viewers, for being out there. We hope you also join us tomorrow for another interesting time. Well, he wants to give a last word before we go, so?
My heart goes for the flood victims in our various states and local governments. We call on all well-meaning Nigerians to reach out to them. If you have food, clothing, sanitary materials, medical materials, please try and reach out to them. It's a sorry state over there, and the government should, as a matter of urgency, declare a state of emergency on environment, and immediately the governor should appoint a commissioner of environment and commissioner of health so that these things can be properly looked into. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've heard that. We're all together in this. We're not leaving anyone behind. We can do our little bit to ensure that people do not suffer too much. Okay, thank you once again, and thank you again for being here with us. All right, I am Anita Obari. You can follow us on our social media platforms, Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress.